Howdy ho, motherfuckers. I know it's been a while, but it's the old man, OG motherfucking Hank, back at that ass with another Kodiak tow truck update. Know it's been a minute. I've been out there on them roads, on them big roads, doing my thing, and I'll talk about that a little later. But I'm here to give you an update about something that I had mentioned in one of my videos quite a while back. For those who watched it, for those who ride with me, I sure appreciate it. When I mentioned something about DOT compliance and lug nut and thread showing. Well, before I get started, I would like to put a shout out word on the street for those good old boys down at Fleet Pride in Nashville, Tennessee, y'all. Yeehaw! They really came through for a brother, and I really appreciate it. They did the leg work and went and found all this stuff for me. Because when I attempted to go to the one here in my neck of the woods, over across the river in St. Louis, they act like they couldn't be bothered. Like they were doing me a motherfucking favor. Rat bastards. All right, I'll just take my business elsewhere. But enough of that bullshit. Let's talk about the real shit. All right, here we go. This guy right here, I got the usual suspects lined up. This is the original length of all those studs on that tow truck. And the problem was that this lug nut right here didn't have any threads showing. Now, to rectify that, you'll either have to go back to steel wheels or get longer studs. Well, the guys down in Nashville told me, hey, bring us an old one and we'll match them up and get you the longer ones that you need. Right and left hand side, all associated hardware. I was like, bet. So that's what I did. I went out on the road for 2 weeks, came back. It was all said and done. Paid a nice little chunk of change for a pile of hardware. But in the long run, it'll be worth it. So now I can use my aluminum wheels and I'll be straight, DOT compliant. Because my philosophy was that if this is going on in the front, what's going on in the back? So I replaced all that hardware. I bought all new hardware to replace on all those hubs. So it'll be straight when I get in there and put it all back together. Another thing is that most shops and most people use an impact gun to tighten down their lug nuts on these bigger trucks and buses and stuff like that. When in actuality, the best practice is that you can break them loose and take them off all day with your impact gun, with your big, powerful impact gun. But when you put them back on there, you should snug them on there and use a torque wrench for the final torque and not the impact gun. Because what will happen is that you'll have a tendency to over tighten and not know it. And over time, if you over tighten, it stretches these out. And what happens to steel or metal when you stretch it? It heats up. So it'll compromise the structural integrity of the lug stud. And eventually they'll break off if you do that too much. So to completely eliminate the possibility of any of that happening from unknown conditions, I just replaced them all. Pretty good practice. My thing is that if there's anything in there that's symmetrical or similar that does the same thing, replace them all. That way you don't have to look back. Now, a little clinic for those who don't know anything about stud pilots. Stud pilots is a system that was used to mount wheels on big rigs and buses and all that stuff back in the day. You know, if you see here, there's an R stamped on that stud. That means to mount the wheel on that stud, all those studs are right-hand thread, like righty-tighty and lefty-loosey. But ain't that the way it's supposed to be, OG? Not in this case. If I went back out in the garage and got all the hardware for the left-hand side, there would be an L stamped here, which means, conversely, that you tighten everything to the left to tighten. Hub pilot wheels use the hub to center the wheel on the lug studs. And then you tighten them down with flange lug nuts for the clamping force. Everything turns to the right. Stud pilot wheels don't have that. They use the lug nuts to center the wheel onto the hub with the studs. And then you tighten them down righty for right hand threads and lefty for left hand threads. Another good rule of thumb is that right hand threads go on the right hand side of the vehicle, left hand threads go to the left side of the vehicle. And then you tighten accordingly with proper torque and proper techniques, of course. Now, we also talked about the rear possibly having the same issue. So I went and bought new inner nuts for the rear and new outer nuts for the rear. And for those who've never dealt with that, I'll talk about that when I get the truck. The truck's not here right now. It'll be easier for me to explain that with the truck here. That way I can physically show you. And then we'll also go over some of the things that I've done to the truck in the meantime. Minor, but no less significant. We are talking about a commercial vehicle, 30-year-old tow truck here. Easy to work on, easy to find parts. But you got to do your homework and you got to do your research. Go out and buy the books. YouTube's a wonderful tool too. They are out there. They're not cheap, but the tools and the books and all that stuff, they're out there. All right. You guys have a good one. OG motherfucking Hank, y'all. All right now.